There is new confusion this morning at federal agencies after Elon Musk issued an ultimatum over the weekend. He says requiring government employees to justify their jobs. Maybe not, though. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
President Trump is defending an ultimatum from billionaire Elon Musk aimed at slashing the federal bureaucracy.
There was a lot of genius in sending it.
But there are also new signs of a potential power struggle within the administration over how to carry out the president's campaign promise to downsize the government. Musk, who heads the administration's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, posted on X over the weekend that federal workers needed to explain what they got done this week, saying he was acting on the president's instructions, adding failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Then, the Office of Personnel Management sent an email to more than 2 million federal workers titled, "What did you do last week?" It asked those workers to respond with 5 bullet points detailing what they accomplished.
What he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, if people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
But the Trump administration changed course, telling heads of federal agencies responding was voluntary and that a non-response to the email does not equate to a resignation. Still, 3 sources with knowledge of the process tell NBC News the bullet points from those who do respond will be fed into an advanced AI system to determine whether someone's work is mission critical or not. There had been growing confusion after some agency heads, including Trump's cabinet picks, issued conflicting guidance to workers. Some agencies, including the state, justice, and defense departments, told employees either to delay responding or not respond at all. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard writing, "Given the inherently sensitive and classified nature of our work, employees should not respond." Today, Trump downplayed any conflict.
That was done in a friendly manner. Only things such as perhaps Marco at State Department, where they have very confidential things, or the FBI, where they're working on confidential things. And they don't mean that in any way combatively with Elon.
Amid mounting protests, including this upside-down flag at Yosemite National Park, the president and Musk keep slashing the size of the federal workforce, laying off more than 1,600 foreign aid workers at USAID. In Missouri, Liv Alvarado is among thousands of workers let go from the IRS.
The fact that there's going to be even less workers here now, stuff's going to take even longer, and these were real people with real jobs.
Thanks so much for that report, Gabe Gutierrez. Yeah, there's chaos right now. I mean, there's chaos, obviously, from not just the workers who have been fired and then brought back to work, whether they're working on nuclear safety or on food and drug safety. Also, of course, real concerns from some Republican members of the Senate and from the House who were watching programs in their districts gutted. Red State America is going to suffer far more than Blue State America in many instances, and wait till the Medicaid cuts start coming. But David Drucker, also, of course, we saw now some of Donald Trump's own federal agency heads are concerned. And you talk to, conservatives, and by conservatives, I mean people that actually want smaller government. What most of them say is, this isn't going to do anything. At the end of the day, this is just creating chaos. This isn't going to do anything to pay down a $36 trillion debt or to pay down the $20 trillion in new debt that will accumulate over the next decade if their reconciliation bill passes. So at the end, some small government conservatives in government are asking, why are we doing this?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you want to deal with the debt and the deficit, you're going to have to reform entitlement programs, Medicare and Social Security in particular, not to mention Medicaid, which, of course, is a big topic of debate in the reconciliation bill. None of that is being dealt with, Medicare and Social Security, in any of these discussions or legislation that's coming together. And so you could make a case that we're going to trim where we can because actually getting it done is politically untenable, meaning voters don't want you to touch Medicare and Social Security. I think the problem here, Joe, is twofold. One, the administration is telling voters via this Department of Government Efficiency effort that eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse will solve the problem. And Americans love to hear that because they have long believed that. They don't believe you have to touch entitlement programs. We know the numbers just don't add up. And so you're giving people, once again, false hope that something can be fixed. Why do voters keep getting upset with both Democrats and Republicans over the years and ping-ponging back and forth, at least this century? Because they're sold a bill of goods, it doesn't come to fruition, and then they go and try somebody else. You know, the other thing here, it was refreshing to see the cabinet secretaries actually try and protect their authority, because you wonder who they're working for and how much purview they have as a cabinet official if they can't decide what their own employees are going to do. Obviously, you know, subject to a directive from the president. It's just that it's been unclear that directives from Musk have come to the president. And one of the reasons it's unclear is because, one, they won't explain it, and two, it's not a transparent process. Now, the president doesn't have to tell anybody what he's doing. The DOGE effort is not subject to the Freedom of Information Act, which is something I've reported for the Dispatch. It's under the Presidential Records Act, so they can keep this secret all they want. I think politically this would work better for them if they explained more what the purpose is, why some employees were being laid off, why some programs and agencies were being trimmed or eliminated. And I think that Republicans on the Hill would feel better, but voters also that are concerned about this might feel better.
Well, I mean, they don't know why. I mean, there is no plan. There's very little transparency. And obviously, when you're firing people at the FAA or TSA or people that are responsible for nuclear safety, and then you're desperately trying to get them back, desperately trying to get healthcare workers back, desperately trying to get back people in the FDA, obviously, there is no long thought out plan. It's just random. And Willie, I want to follow up on something that David said, and that is, you're not going to come close to paying off a $36 trillion debt. You're not going to make any headway with these sort of random cuts with a chainsaw. I mean, it's not cutting down trees, if we want to use that metaphor for the budget. He's trimming little leaves here, but causing massive pain and massive disruption. Said it before, I'll say it again. You know, about 90% of the budget, 90% of the budget, defense spending, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, interest on the debt. We spend more money paying off interest on our $36 trillion debt than we do our military. And we spend a hell of a lot on our defense budget, Willie. So that's about 88, 89, 90% of the budget. What we're talking about with these random and ill-considered cuts, it's just a small percentage of the budget. And it's not going to have any long-term impact fiscally, but what it is going to do is it's going to cause a lot of pain, a lot of suffering for a lot of Americans in red state America and in blue state America.
Yeah, it's performative, sometimes literally, like when he's holding a chainsaw on a stage, wearing sunglasses in front of a crowd, talking about what he's going to do. But you have, to your point, Joe, the FDA just yesterday scrambling to rehire people that suddenly they said, we have to have these people inspecting food. We have to have these people looking at medical devices. These are important people who keep people safe and keep Americans alive. You can't just take your chainsaw to them in a way that looks like disruption, but actually is just chaos.